Denny Hamlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr. shared their thoughts and ideas about how to stop the current superspeedway fuel saving epidemic. Hello, everyone. My name is Brody. The 2026 Daytona 500 had an incredible finish, but it did mask and hide a glaring flaw that currently exists in the NASCAR Superspeedway package, and that is the fuel saving epidemic, as Dale Earnhardt Jr. likes to describe it as. We got some great insight as to what these former drivers, I'm talking about Denny Hamlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr., think of these fuel saving scenarios and situations that occur at these speedways, and they have an idea about how to exactly solve this issue. Before we jump into Denny Hamlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s comments, let's first get a baseline about why this fuel saving is exactly happening. The reason is quite simple. It's to limit the amount of time these drivers spend on pit road. The next gen superspeedway racing product is very tight knit, close, compact, close quarters racing. You look at these images, and these cars are super close together. They're 3, 4 wide. This looks like a very beautiful, gorgeous image. But if you take a closer look at the actual product, the racing product, these drivers are simply just saving fuel. If you look at their telemetry, they are going about 40, 50, 60% throttle. The speeds are around 180, maybe 190. But these speeds are redacting and limiting the amount of racing product us race fans get to see, because these fuel saving stints can last an entire stage. And NASCAR has these races broken into 3 stages. So we could see 50 laps of fuel saving, and then we'll get 10 laps of good racing. And then the stage one will end. And then we'll repeat that for stage two, and we'll repeat that for stage three. To understand why the cars are so close together in this pack, we have to look at the car itself. The next gen car features a super tall spoiler and an insane amount of underbody. This increases downforce and increases drag. To now pick up on some comments from Denny Hamlin, he says that the cars are so planted into the racetrack that handling does not come up as often as it should when the drivers are wrestling these cars around these turns going this speed. To emphasize this, let's look at a quote from Denny Hamlin from this podcast. Denny Hamlin said, "I will never forget the test I ran at Daytona. It was my first time in the next gen. I remember getting a run, a massive run like I've gotten in years past, and I went to pull out of line, and the RPMs just dropped." What he's referring to by just dropping is when a car pulls out of line, out of the pack, in an attempt to pass a car or to move up in any way possible, the single car cannot compete with the flow, the speed of the pack itself. Even if during these fuel saving stints the field is running 40 to 60% and one car pulls out of line and goes 100%, that car will still go backwards. That's why the typical next gen finish is double wide and a car can't pull out of line. We were blessed and treated to an amazing 2026 Daytona 500 finish because of that last lap crash or crashes, because it dwindled the field and made it so there were only a few cars racing and runs were able to be established throughout that small little group. Denny Hamlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr. want to eliminate the amount of drag in these cars to help drivers who want to pursue and make their way forward in the field. This can be done by reducing the size of the spoiler. Instead of a giant, almost wing-like feature on the back, Denny Hamlin says we should make it to where it's a short track spoiler or intermediate size spoiler, to where a significant chunk of the spoiler itself is cut off, reducing the amount of drag. Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes further to say we can even tweak the diffuser, the underbody of the car, reducing downforce and reducing drag, creating a more of a handful feel for these drivers. So what does reducing drag exactly do? Denny Hamlin classifies it as a field spread. When a car is harder to handle, they have to let off the gas going into the corner. Currently, the drivers are full throttle, or in this case, 40 to 60% throttle in that giant pack. But if you reduce the amount of drag, the cars become unstable and hard to handle, making it so the drivers have to naturally lift off the gas in order to make the corner. What this will do will create a disparity between different race teams and manufacturers. Some teams will have that thing hooked up so well that it drives better. But other teams that struggle will have a harder time competing with those cars, creating significant gaps in the field that will eliminate or at least reduce the amount of fuel saving scenarios we see. For example, let's look at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Can you tell the difference between this image and this image? What about this image and this image? Those were comparisons between Atlanta Motor Speedway and Daytona and Atlanta and Talladega. Those images show the field spread Denny Hamlin is talking about. At Atlanta Motor Speedway, we have the same super speedway package, but the field spread is what makes it so there's no or little to no fuel saving done by these drivers and teams. Additionally, Atlanta Motor Speedway is 1.5 miles in length. This makes it so the cars are a lot more of a handful for these drivers. You see wrecks like this and this very frequently because these cars are a handful. This wreck is Kyle Larson, one of the most gifted and talented NASCAR drivers or drivers in general in the world. He got loose on his own and wrecked at Atlanta, and he's one of the best ever. So making these cars unstable and loose will help the fuel saving efforts. Here's a quote from Dale Earnhardt Jr. that I thought was very interesting and a very interesting way to think about this issue. Dale Earnhardt Jr. says, NASCAR should find out how much drag to pull off the car so that if I'm driving in a pack of cars that's running 50 to 60% throttle and I run 100%, I drive away from them. By that, I am negating their advantage. The advantage Dale Earnhardt Jr. is talking about is the fuel saving aspect. When this field is so tightly together, the amount of fuel they save is significant, reducing the amount of time spent on pit road. But if a single car could pull out of line and run 100% throttle and make faster lap times and pull away by a few seconds, the same amount of seconds that they would save by saving all this fuel, that negates their advantage of saving all this fuel. Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes further and says if some drivers can link up and talk before the race and get 4 or 5 drivers and say, we're going to run away from this field and we're going to push hard and negate their advantage from fuel saving entirely. This reducing the drag makes that feasible, makes that possible. But there is one aspect that Dale Earnhardt Jr. hints at that NASCAR might be afraid of going forward with this idea. In the later stages of the Gen 6 car, we saw what was deemed the super speedway train, where drivers would run around single file at the top of the racetrack, winding down the laps. And if we go forward with the reducing the drag package, will we see a train at the top? It's really hard to tell, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't have an answer. But Denny Hamlin had a idea that might give us a insight as to what we could see if we reduce the drag. Denny Hamlin said, I would love to go down to Daytona for the Clash and run a completely experimental drafting package. If we seriously want to get rid of this fuel-saving epidemic, we should take Denny Hamlin's idea into consideration. The Clash features 20 to 22, 25 cars. That is the perfect amount of cars to get a firm grasp and understanding as to what exactly this new package will look like and race like. If the results are positive, we can further experiment and maybe push it more and figure out what is the limit to the point where the train might return. If the results are bad, then we start at ground zero. We reset. We find a new way, but we will never know if we don't try. In my opinion, I think we should go forward with Denny Hamlin's idea. It doesn't have to be the Clash. It could be a separate test, a weekend at Daytona, they can call it. And they bring 15, 10, 20 drivers out there and they run a Clash length race. Not to actually race, but to just test, feel out the car, feel out the package, and get data, get interpretations, get feedback from the drivers, the crew chiefs. Let these teams tinker and figure it out. By working together and collaborating on this project, NASCAR, the drivers, the teams, I think we can really see a positive change in the near future. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think about what Denny Hamlin, what Dale Earnhardt Jr. said? Do you guys want to see a fix to this Super Speedway package, or do you like it the same how it is right now? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Love to start a discussion about what you think NASCAR, the teams, and the drivers should do about this issue. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great, wonderful, and even splendid rest of your day. See ya.